Welcome to the Lift Your Story podcast with guest E.A. Csolkovits, founder and patriarch of Givers University and author. Hi, everyone. I'm Lorianne. I am that gal from Milton, Ontario, Canada, and I am with.
I am that guy. I am Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas. Welcome to our Lift Your Story podcast.
In this episode, we have E.A. Csolkovits, and he's the founder and patriarch of Givers University and author. Thank you so much for being here with us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your great podcast. And I love the name of it. Lift Your Story is a great name for a podcast because so many people have so many great stories and they can be so inspirational. And I really thank you for having me on as a guest.
Well, I mean, let's just say you're an entrepreneur, started at age 16 and became a millionaire by the time you were 21. Probably due to your mentor.
I would say absolutely. And if you'd like, I'm happy to share my background story because it was actually quite interesting the way I met him. And he became my mentor before I even knew what the word meant or how to spell it or anything else, and unfortunately I spent all my hooked on phonics money when I was younger. So I didn't even know how to spell mentor. But anyway, my father, I was very humble upbringing. My father was a milkman, born and raised in Chicago area, an area actually called Oak Brook. And my father had a distributorship for a company called Twin Oaks Dairy. And basically what that meant is he just had a route. And back then, I'm a lot older than both of you. So I know, I'm going to say something you probably never heard of, but they had milkmen. And there was a box outside the house. And the box was for the milk to go into, and milk was in glass gallons. And there was, what's funny? There was always money in the box for the milkman, and no one touched it. Mm-hmm. I never remember one single time of anyone touching the milkman money, and everyone knew there was money in the box. It was just, different times, right? And so, that'd be a note, and we'd deliver the milk, and I helped my father on his route when I was 5 years old, and then at the ripe old age of 16, I took my first major step into success and happiness, and that's when I became a janitor. Now, I didn't mind doing that because business was always picking up. What? Anyway, so
very funny.
Yeah, it was that's punishment, right? Punishment. And so here I am at 16 years old, janitor, right? And I had two interesting events while I was a janitor. One was I was able to be bonded, which meant insured. So I could go in expensive places and clean them, right? And one of the houses I cleaned was a lady, and I was in there every single Wednesday, and her name was June Martino. Now, if you ever saw the movie with Michael Keaton, it's called The Founder with Ray Kroc. He talks about the movie's about Ray Kroc and McDonald's. I don't know if you ever saw the movie, but and it was around quite a bit, and it's still on streaming, et cetera, for some time. Michael Keaton plays Ray Kroc, right? And it's all about McDonald's, and it's certainly Hollywoodized, that's for sure. But he keeps talking to a lady outside his office, and he keeps calling June. That's the lady whose house I cleaned. That lady.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Yeah. So that was Ray Kroc's personal secretary. I had witnessed the whole McDonald's phenomenon. So I lived right there, though, in the same place where the world headquarters of McDonald's was, literally for decades. Right? It's not there anymore, but just recently moved. But it was in Oak Brook, Illinois, for all this time, outside suburb of Chicago. And so here I am in June's house, and Wednesday, and I'm in there cleaning. And the first thing that amazed me about her, Lorianne and Roy, was that she was a regular person. She, I had always been taught that to be rich and really successful, you had to be a jerk, and that you had to be condescending and treat people bad and always me first. And she was so the opposite of that was astonishing to me. I thought, man, this lady she's like, I'm not able to count how many zeros she's worth on my fingers and toes. And because at that point she had the third most controlling stock in McDonald's. And I thought, this is extraordinary. And here I am, 16 years old, and I'm pulling out the Rolls Royce 3 times a day to sweep out the garage because I want to sit in a car that's worth 10 lifetimes of income for me, right? And a Rolls Royce. Here I am driving a Rolls can hardly, rolls down one hill, can hardly make it up the next. And she's driving a Rolls Royce, so, and I thought, this lady, she's so approachable and she's so nice. So one day she was in an extra nice mood, and I could tell she was. So I thought, this is it. This is my day. So I mustered up all the courage I could, and I went up to her. And I'm going to ask June Martino a question, right? And she always said hi. She always said, she knew who I was. I said hi back, you know, we were very nice that way. But I never really talked with her. So I said, June, she goes, hi. And I said, could I ask you a question? She said, oh, sure. And I said, could you tell me about it? She said, well, what's that? And I said, oh, the whole McDonald's thing. I'm not kidding, Lorianne and Roy. She put her arm around me, brought me in the kitchen, and told me the entire story from the very beginning when Ray met the brothers, all the way through to the second we were sitting in the kitchen together, and everything in between, and even had the maids and butlers bringing us food so she could keep telling me the story. And I'm sitting there thinking, my God, this is June Martino. She's like talking, and it's like, I keep looking, is there anyone else around? No, it's just me. She's telling this little snot-nosed 16-year-old this incredible story. So there's one part in the movie, I don't know if either one of you saw it, but there's a part in the movie where June goes to Ray, June Martino goes to Ray Kroc, who's Michael Keaton, and said, we don't have any money. We're out of money. We're losing money like there's no tomorrow. And that prompts Michael Keaton, Ray Kroc, to call the brothers, and they have a dramatized argument. Ray needs more percentage, right? That kind of thing. That part of the story was true. The rest, a lot of it was Hollywoodized, but there was many true events sort of pelted in there. And that one was true. She told me it decades earlier. So I'm listening. So she's telling me the story. And I said, and so I had to ask her, I said, June, I'm a janitor. I work Friday to Friday, paycheck to paycheck. If I don't get paid on Friday, I'm not showing Saturday. I need that paycheck. Why did you do it? Because the deal that they had was, as she told me, he couldn't pay her any money, no money to pay her. He paid her in worthless company stock because McDonald's was under zero, so it was worthless. And he agreed to take the bill, collect their phone call so she wouldn't get hassled on the phone. And so that astonished me. And I thought, man, that's like a no-win situation. You know, I mean, you're not getting any money. You're getting stock that's not worth anything. So I asked her, why'd you do it? And you know what? She stared at me and looked right at me. And I could tell eyeball to eyeball, she's looking at me, but she just left. No one had ever asked her that question before. Everyone always wanted to know what happened with McDonald's, but no one ever asked her why. So I just simply asked her, why'd you do it? And she stared at me for like 10 seconds, you know, and I'm like looking around trying to, you know, just do. She's like staring at me and I don't know what she's not saying anything, but she truly was thinking of, why did she do it? She had never even thought about that before. And when she spoke, what she said made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. And I still remember so succinctly, not even what she said, but the way she said it. When I said, June, why did you do it? Why'd you work for no money, worthless stock, nothing? Yeah, there's no reason to do it. Why'd you do it? She said to me, because I believed in Ray. And my first second, the very first thought that came to my head after was, that's it. I need to find a Ray Kroc. That's what I need. I need a Ray Kroc. And I remember the thought just jumped in my head. And I thought, man, I need I don't know about mentors or anything like that. I just knew here was someone she believed in. And I thought, if I could find someone like that would put me under their wing and teach me everything that I need to know, because I'm the son of a milkman. And I like to say son of a milkman as opposed to son of, and a burnt out janitor who my fun time is getting free songs on a jukebox at 2 a.m. cleaning bowling alleys. I need to find a Ray Kroc. And I'll never forget that, right? And then it wasn't 2 or 3 months later, same janitorial service. It's in Addison, Illinois, where the service was. And we were friends with the family. And I already punched out for the day I'd cleaned all day long and I was tired. We got a phone call at the office at night. And the owner hangs up the phone. It's only him and I in the office. And he goes, well, some guy's in from out of town. He's opened a diamond store here. He's from Detroit. He needs to see some carpeting right now because he's leaving on a plane in the morning back to Detroit. And I said, okay, what's that got to do with me? He said, I need you to go. I said, Jerry, I'm not going. First time I said no, that was number one. I said, I've already punched out. Back then they had punch clocks and you felt like punch because you hated what you did. So you really wanted to punch the thing out, right? And so he said, I have to stay here. I need you to go. I said, Jerry, I'm not going. Second time I said no. I don't know anything about carpeting. I just clean places. I don't know about carpeting. He said, he gives me a wheel and he said, walk this way and called me on the phone and this thing will measure the measurements. I said, no, I'm not going. Third time I said no. He said, I'll tell you what, if you go, I'll give you your pick of any Saturday off you want. Now, for a janitor, that's a huge negotiation chip because we clean when businesses are closed. So morning till night on Saturday, we're cleaning solid all the way through. So I wanted to make sure my ears weren't tricking me, and I repeated it back. Any Saturday I want? He said, any Saturday. And I said, okay. Big sigh. Now set the stage. I'm dragging. My feet are dragging. My mind is dragging. Physically, I'm exhausted. I don't care about who this guy is I'm going to meet. I'm doing this for one reason and one reason only. I'm getting a Saturday off of my choice in the future. That's the only reason. Little do I know, I'm getting ready to meet the man that will change the trajectory of my life forever. The man who will become the father I never had, even though I had a father. And the man who I became the son he never had, even though he had a son. And I share with your listeners, be careful, be aware of those moments in time that will seem like they're on the edge of a dime, that are so insignificant at that moment, that will bring about the hugest life changes in your life. And I went, and the man I met became my business mentor. And when we met, there was this like, man, I felt like I knew this guy. Have you ever met someone where you felt like you knew him before? Like there was just this weird comfort level that I felt like as soon as I met him, I shook his hand. I felt like I could talk to him about anything. It didn't even matter what it was. In fact, we talked about anything. The carpeting meant nothing. He wanted real plush things for this diamond store. And, all we had was commercial grade. So that didn't mean anything. So after a couple hours of talking, and obviously, it's time to go, right? And I know he's leaving in the morning, first thing in the morning. So as I'm leaving, he offers me a job. And I said, no. Fourth, no. I said, no, I don't know anything about diamonds. All I know about diamonds is someday a lady's going to ask me for one, and they're really expensive. That's all I know about them. He said, don't worry, I'll teach you. And I said, no. And then the next phrase he said, he knew, and little did I know at that point that I was actually talking to, in the truest sense of the word, a real genius. And he had me 100% pegged and knew exactly what to say to get my goat. So as I was walking out the office, he said, what do you have to lose? You could always go back being a janitor. And I said, no. The last time I said no, and I walk out the door, I said, I'm all set. My life's all set. People could always make a mess and I'll pick it up. I got no problem with that. Right? That's it. As I'm driving home, and it's getting close to midnight now. I mean, it's grinding me. He's right. I could always go back being a janitor. No matter what, I could always go back. And I sort of like this guy. And he looks really rich and he's happy because I want to be rich and happy, not knowing it, Lorianne and Roy, that I had it backwards. First, we should be happy and then we should be rich. But at 16 years old, at this point, and it's all about the money, so I'm like, I'm how I make money, right? And I met this June Martino, so I got to get on with it, right? So I turned the car around halfway home and I go back to him. I say, okay, what do you have in mind? And one thing led to another conversation. And then for the next, I got in the car at 4 a.m, Friday night, Saturday morning, drove 301 miles. I remember the mileage specifically, from Chicago to Detroit in one day, had a 6-hour meeting with him, got back in the car and drove all the way home the same day, every single weekend for 4 months in a row. And I never missed a weekend because I wanted to know. I just knew. So I share with your listeners, don't underestimate the strength of a really great mentor. Be discerning as to who they are. Don't just listen to anyone because, one of the definitions of an expert is someone who lives more than 50 miles away. So you don't necessarily, you want to make sure you're very discerning. And I knew this guy knew that. So after we knew each other a little while, and I think he was sort of testing me to see if I was really serious, because I'm a young kid at this point. And I said, Sam, his name was Sam Robbins. I said, Sam, I want you to teach me. Can you teach me everything you know? I'll be like a sponge. Just teach it to me. I know I'm the son of a milkman, a burnt out janitor. I need to learn. I need it, right? And he said, all right, I'll teach you, but I want one thing from you. Lorianne and Roy, whatever came out of his mouth next, I want to let you know I was going to say yes. It didn't matter what he said next. I was there, right? And he said, this is what I want from you. When the time is right, and you will know that time, I want you to train and teach as many other people as possible everything I've taught you. And I said, yes. Little did I know at that point, as time went on, I would realize the depth of that vow I made, the depth of that commitment and that oath that today is manifesting so many years later. I'm 65 years old now. So many years later as what we know today as Givers University. So that's the background story of how I met my mentor and the successes I had. And I had some 3, major defeats in my life, but I can share with you that he was the person that really was. And I didn't know what a mentor even was. I didn't know how to spell it. I just had come to terms with, I didn't know what I needed.
Well, just as a little aside, I do remember the Milkman. We even had, when I was a kid, we even had Bread Man.
Oh, man, you beat me by that much. Okay.
Yeah, so I know all about that.
All right. Okay.
But anyway, that aside, so tell us about your givers, all your givers programs.
Excellent. And again, thank you. We actually teach something that genuinely is not being taught anywhere else today. And the reason I know that is I average 1 to 3 podcast interviews a day. And I know that as I talk with these people and I share with them and the feedback that everyone says, man, this is great stuff. Someone should be teaching us. No one's teaching it before. And the simple way I could explain it would be as follows. I would ask your listeners, think about the fires that you stomp out every day. Think about the times during the day when your stress level spikes and goes straight up. Think about the conversations you have during the day where you just had a conversation. You barely remember what you talked about, but you do know you don't have any more energy left because they just drained it all from you. All 3 of those scenarios, Lorianne and Roy, have one thing in common. They all have a name attached to them. And here's what no one's teaching us today. We call it discernment. No one's teaching us how to discern and what we should look for. So when we see certain things, we should begin to discern and think, should I pull this person closer into my life because of what I'm seeing? Or should I begin to respectfully distance myself because of what I'm seeing? Because they're about ready to make me collateral damage because they're going to bring all that into my life with them. So no one's teaching them. So the example I could use is right now, Roy, if you had like itchy eyes and a runny nose, I could probably discern you may have a cold. I'm not able to see the cold. The cold is what causes the symptoms, but I can see the symptoms. The symptoms teach me the cold, right? So what we've done is we've done something no one else has ever done before. We've sifted it all the way down and filtered it down to look for the actual deeds, the things you will see a person doing in the form of checklists even to decide, should I pull them in closer and have them a part of what we call our givers community, because givers bring with them the 3 W's of wisdom, wealth, and wellness? Or should I begin respectfully distancing myself from them, not nasty or rude or insensitive, just respectfully distancing myself because they're going to bring with them the 3 D's of a taker, which is defeatism, disruption, and destruction. And I don't want those things in my life. So we teach people how to discern what are the actual things you should be looking for and seeing. I talked with a gentleman a few days ago and he said, that's interesting because on this topic, I just read a book and the book said we should surround ourselves with 5 good people. And I said, that's absolutely right. Now, let me ask you a question. How do you know which 5? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I got this blank look. Looking back, I said, do you see my point? I said, that what they're saying is right. I said, but no one's teaching us how do you discern who should I have? Now, what we do is we teach the following, and I share with all your listeners, we love everybody. We love everybody. What we teach is how to separate the person who we love from their deeds, which we may not love. So when we refer to a giver, we're not labeling a person, we're labeling their deeds. When we say taker, we're not labeling a person, we're labeling the deeds of that person. And we have determined statistically that about 20% of the population are givers. You put them in any situation, and within a short period of time, they will figure out how to help it, contribute to it, give to it. That's what they do. They're sort of wired that way. By contrast, the other Grand Canyon extreme, that's a place in the U.S., Lori, I was just saying. I know she does. I'm just kidding. So so on the other end of the Grand Canyon are there's another 20% that are takers, that you put them in any situation, no matter what it is. In a short period of time, they will start crafting a way to take from it spiritually, mentally, morally, emotionally, financially. That's what they do. Now we have 20%, that leaves 60%. We call them fencers because they sit on the fence. They act like givers when they're with givers. They act like takers when they're with takers. They can be great relationships, but we need to manage them. We have to keep an eye on them. So what we want to do is learn the skill. It's a skill that can be taught on how to discern and how to decide, even by virtue of broken down checklists that we want to give to your listeners 100% absolutely free as usable, tangible tools that they can immediately start to use and have better life. Because when we're stomping out fires, because no one's taught us who to look for with the people coming into our lives, what happens to our productivity? It goes down because we're stomping out fires instead. What happens to our stress level? It goes up because we've got the wrong people around us. What happens with our energy? We don't have people that are contribute to our energy and we're contributing to them. We have energy drainers around us all day. And no one has said what my student pilot teacher taught me. I became a commercial pilot in years past to fly my own planes. And when I was becoming a student pilot, my instructor said, one of the first things he said was, look out the front of the plane. And when you never want to see this. You never want to see a plane that is this size, and all of a sudden it goes to that size. He said, because that means it's coming at you. And it might be 600 miles an hour closure rate. It's going to happen fast. He said, you want to see planes that are looking like that. And then as you watch them, they go like this. That's what you want to see. And so what we teach people is how to look off in the distance. Zip plane, zip plane. We teach people look off in the distance and see and watch the deeds of these specific things they will do. One of the things we want to give your listeners is the 6 arrows. The 6 arrows that takers shoot at givers. And every time someone looks at these 6 arrows, it's a checklist. They go, oh my God, this is great stuff. It's sort of like, you never noticed how many green cars were on the street before until you are getting ready to buy a green car, right? Same thing. Now, because our attention is on all these green cars, they were always there. Our awareness wasn't there, right? Same thing. Now, all of a sudden, people look at this and go, oh, this is really good stuff. I mean, and now they begin to realize they're getting shot all day by takers, these arrows, and they don't realize why they're walking around hurting and bleeding. And we teach them how to discern. A couple of days later, we're going to give them what are called the 25 do's. These are genuine 25 deeds that you can watch and discern people do. And when they hit 13 on one side or the other, you can start thinking, you know what? I wonder, maybe they're being a little takerish here. And maybe I should be starting to discern and respectfully distance myself, because they're going to come into my life and bring with them defeatism, disruption, and destruction. They're going to bring it with them, and I'm going to be stomping out fires that are not of my making. Lorianne, I know you're a self-improvement person. Roy, you're a self-improvement guy. I am. I love self-improvement. But no one's teaching us today. How about the other guy? What if he's not doing it right? What do we do then? And so that's the heart of what we teach at Givers University.
Wow. That is something that does need to be taught to the young people.
Yes, it does. You know what, the things that are warping their mind and they're being exposed to in the family unit under 24/7 attack today.
Yes.
And unit is so important and is just under constant attack. And no one's teaching them how to discern, because I think there's just a lot of people don't want people to discern, and that we want, and it's a skill that should be taught. And so we're very excited. And when I bring this by this message, going all the way back to a vow and a commitment I made, to my mentor at 19 years old at that point, when I made the commitment, and seeing how it impacts lives today, because I know in my heart, not only is he looking out after me, helping me every day, but I can tell today by just looking around, this is the right time to teach this.
Yes.
We really, really need it. So we want to share with your listeners, and all I have to do is go to our website, sign up for our free newsletter, and everything I talked about, they're going to get absolutely free, because we're givers. And we believe in the following saying, and it goes like this: your talk talks and your walk talks, but your walk talks louder than your talk talks. So, and because our deeds, no one's teaching people, look and watch their deeds, discern, and your life happiness can go up so much when we simply have been discerning. Our productivity, our stress level goes down. It's a wonderful thing when we learn how to build, and we teach people how to build their own giver community around them, so they can get all these great things in their life that they should have.
So what's your website?
Go to Givers, that's plural, giversuniversity.com, giversuniversity.com. And they'll see it's on every page, the lower right-hand corner, they'll see a sign-up page where it says free newsletter, etc. They just put in their first name and their email address. That's it. No cost, no anything else. And within minutes afterwards, they will get, and they want to make sure they confirm their email. We don't spam people or anything. So they'll get an email that says, is this okay with you? And we want, they need to click on that and say, yeah, we want to do this. And then within minutes, they will get the 6 arrows that they can download. We want them to download it. It's a checklist. A couple of days later, they'll get the 25 do's. They'll learn who we are. They'll learn who the courses we have, the online courses and online training. They'll learn about all of that. And so we really, more than anything else, we want to walk our talk. We need all of us. All of us need more givers in our life. And remember, when we say giver, we're not labeling a person, we're labeling their deeds. When we say taker, we're not labeling a person, we're labeling their deeds. But we need more discernment, and the skill set needs and can be taught, and we're here to do it. By the way, side note, do you know one of the best things they could do? One of the best things, if someone, let's say one of your listeners has someone in their family that maybe is being a little takerish, right? And they know they need to have this conversation with them, but they love them. They don't want to hurt their feelings. So what do? How do you broach the subject? Do you know one of the best things they could do is share a podcast called Lift Your Story with them? And here's why. It's a third party. Because all they have to do is simply say, you know what? I heard this great podcast. It was very thought-provoking. It was a whole different subject matter. It was different. So it's something that really needs to be, it was interesting. I really liked it. Do me a favor, listen to it and give me your opinion on it. Because now it's a third party broaching that subject that needs to be broached with this person who's being takerish in their life. So I suggest to your listeners, I recommend it, I endorse it. They should be sharing Lift Your Story with those people in their life that they want to influence in a positive way. And maybe, just maybe, those minds will open a little bit. Maybe they'll have one less fire in their life that they're stomping out because they shared Lift Your Story with them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Do you have anything, Lorianne?
No, this was very interesting. I love the story too. And yes, I do remember the Milkman.
Lori, that had to be a story you heard. You saw pictures of, right?
No, and even when I was moved to Turkey when I was 7 years old, and they still had
Really?
Milkman then. So
Okay.
yeah, so that was kind of neat.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we had kind of the bread man. It was like the sumichi that was down, from the balcony. You had to run down and get your sumit to it.
That's great. Times have changed, right? But in another way, it's funny because now they've come back again, right? Now look at all the things get delivered at home now. Groceries and all that. So it is true. I believe that statement is true. If you want to know the future, look in history. because there's nothing new under the sun, right? I mean, that absolutely, Ecclesiastes says that there's nothing new under the sun. And so it's so important that we realize that if you want to see the future, just go look farther back. It's going to come around again. It'll look different. It'll be repackaged. Same thing. And it really is. And one last final thought I'd like to share with your listeners is something my business mentor shared with me. And this is something I think that from a standpoint of personal inspiration and from a standpoint that's really important with the things we say to ourselves and the conversations we have to ourselves that impact our lives and others so much. One of the things my business mentor taught me to say to myself that I'll share with your listeners is, I will never give up. I will keep rising up, and I will always overcome.
Very nice.
Good message.
Beautiful words. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you for having me on your great podcast. My pleasure.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit us at lifterstory.com.